Archaeological research conducted in Spain shows that human traces in this geography date back 35,000 years. However, the known written history of the region starts from 2000 BC. From these dates on, Iberians, Celts, Phoenicians, Greeks, and Carthaginians ruled the Iberian Peninsula. The Roman Empire, which ended the domination of the Carthaginians in 205 BC, took over the region. From this date onwards, Roman culture began to spread in the region. While the Franks, Alans, and Vandals, who headed towards the Iberian Peninsula with the migration of tribes from the middle of the 3rd century, invaded the region, in 415 the Visigoths dominated a larger region, including the territory of today's Spain. During this period, Spain became Christian and the influence of the church on the state and the people increased. The Umayyads, who headed towards the Iberian Peninsula via North Africa at the beginning of the 8th century, were defeated by Musa B, Nusair, and Tariq B. Under the leadership of Ziyad, he conquered the region and thus began the Muslim domination that would last for centuries. After the collapse of the Umayyad state by the Abbasids in 756, the dynasty member Abdurrahman I, who managed to escape, moved to Andalusia and, after a difficult struggle, established an independent emirate in the region. The Andalusian Umayyads ruled under this emirate from this date until 929, and on this date, Caliphate was declared by Abdurrahman. However, as a result of the loss of stability, caliphate and power struggles, and internal turmoil in the early 11th century, the Andalusian Umayyad state came to an end in 1031. During the Andalusian period, Muslims managed to create a great experience of culture, art, science, and civilization in Spain and its surroundings, leaving a deep-rooted legacy in Europe whose effects will continue to this day. Starting from the late 15th century, Spain became one of the most important political figures in Europe and turned into a large colonial empire by initiating overseas colonial movements. Founded in 1492, the Spanish Empire is considered the world's first global empire with territory on 5 continents. Although it failed to establish superiority over the Ottoman Empire in the Mediterranean basin, it transferred the riches of the new continents it opened via the Atlantic and Pacific Oceans to the European continent through exploitation activities. Spain lost its leadership in colonial activities from the end of the 16th century, and after the defeat against the British Navy in 1588, the state began to weaken with religious wars, internal turmoil, and throne struggles. As a natural consequence of this process, Spain had to accept the independence of Portugal in 1640 and the Netherlands in 1648. Throughout the century, Spain continued to lose territory, and many regions that today remain within the borders of Italy, Belgium, and Austria were abandoned. The death of Charles II, the last king of the state, a member of the Habsburg dynasty, in 1700, as he had no children, brought about throne fights, and Felipe V ascended to the throne with the Utrecht Peace Treaty signed after the War of Spanish Succession, which continued between 1701 and 1714. Thus, the Habsburg dynasty period ended and the history of Spain and the Bourbon dynasty period began. This dynasty has continued until today, except for short intervals, and the Bourbon dynasty still rules the Kingdom of Spain. On the other hand, all colonies in America, except Cuba and Puerto Rico, gained their independence one after another, taking advantage of the weakness in Spain created by the Napoleonic Wars in Europe in the first quarter of the 19th century. Spain, which was seriously injured in the Napoleonic Wars, witnessed great political turmoil in the 19th century, and dozens of very short-lived governments came to power during this period. A constitutional monarchy was declared in 1869, and a short-lived republican regime was established in 1873. But when this attempt did not yield results, a new constitution was prepared in 1876. At the end of the century, the independence struggles in Cuba and the Philippines and the war with the USA added new economic and political losses. Although Spain remained neutral in the First World War, it was negatively affected by the war. After Alfonso XIII abdicated in 1931, a republic was declared and a new constitution was prepared, but the resulting political vacuum dragged Spain into one of the bloodiest civil wars of the 20th century. More than 1 million people lost their lives in the Civil War that continued between 1936 and 1939, and after the war, the country was turned into a dictatorship that would last until 1975 under the rule of General Francisco Franco. During the reign of Juan Carlos, who came to power after the death of Franco, the re-establishment of political parties was allowed and a constitutional monarchy was established. Thus, after many years of oppressive rule, Spain began to follow a policy of opening up to the outside world and embarked on a new restructuring. Carlos, who reigned for nearly 40 years, abdicated in favor of his son Felipe in 2014. Thank you for watching. If you want more such content to come, please do not forget to subscribe to my channel.